Rolling images of glory in my mind at enlistment. Overhead a flapping red, white, and blue filling the distance. A grand divide between myself and conscientious convictions or belief systems that stop people from killing over religion. I was young and I was out of options in my mind. It was supposed to be fun, my obligations ill-defined. I'd be the one to take charge with a gun back in my mind. Without college or riches, no dreams are realized. Well, I never have the ladder of the Marines to get me to first. Ain't nothing better than dress blues are the ones spitting this verse. You see the world hand to the GI Bill, fat in the purse. My recruiter made it sound simple, a play hit well rehearsed. Forever cursed to the ones who get young innocent signatures under the guise of a God country that honor diminishes. Greed built a standing army, went against the founders' wishes. Now free democracy conducts war games and peacekeeping missions. Ironic hypocrisy.
Falling tears, raindrops from your eyes. Falling rain, let it fall.
I scored high in my entrance exams on ASVAB and chose the 0341 with guaranteed Hawaii track. Graduated basic, now MOS school's where I'm at. A mortar man with a 35-pound gun on my back. Plus my rifle 8 pounds, 65-pound pack. I'm 18, weigh a $195 and feel jacked. 108 pounds on my back, a boot marine and Cadillacs. A short 20-mile hump, 4 quarts in my flat. After 7 miles, swearing in my right foot crack. I'm an E1, tell my sergeant I think it snapped. He's an E5, shouts private, don't beat me crap. You got 2 feet, compensate, don't fall back. After 4 more miles, my left foot joins in the act. Only 9 more to go, I walked them all, that's a fact. 1 certificate for intestinal fortitude, not having shat. And 3 months healing, lost Hawaii to Guantanamo, rap.
Sergeant David Trois, who I met in 6th grade. Dress greens, patent leather, and a high top fade. My mind was made up, I couldn't wait to grow up so I could sign up, man up, and stop the corrupt. A champion for God and country. Just wait till they get a load of me, an unstoppable PFC. Private first class, polished brass. I wanted to kill all the black pajamas that were hiding in the grass. But with no war in sight, my plight to fight never took flight. So I trained during the day and got drunk at night. Set my sights on all types of glory. Fast forward to Afghanistan, totally different story. IEDs, enemies, no front line to see. 80 pounds of gear in the desert, I could hardly breathe. Blood-stained fatigues, very many colleagues sent home to the VA to live with PTSD. Everyday recruiters go to inner cities and ask for
falling tears, raindrops from your eyes. Falling rain, let it fall.
I never let my children volunteer for the military to make the same mistakes as I did these days could be deadly. If they're drafted with Dodgers, my go back stay ready. I support Manning and Snowden. You know where this country's heading. Global tyrant, hegemonic, bully police force, demonic practice, virgin sacrifice, bloodlust. All your wars valuing corporations over people. Vampires. This is sick worship by objects and pure evil. Material desires get more attention than spiritual. Benefits are based on profits, complaints aren't given view. Arms manufacture, supply both sides of conflicts. Do you have a problem with any of these statements or doubt their truth? I'm a father and a veteran, and I stand for peace. Julian Assange against our commanders-in-chief. But it's hard to be better when daily demands compete. I'm not ignoring the slaughter, I'm just trying to eat like you.
Falling tears, raindrops from your eyes. Falling rain, let it fall.
And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Wednesday, December 30th, 5 o'clock, the day before New Year's Eve. And so I think today we have Miles and Garett Reppenhagen, who is the executive director of Veterans for Peace, and I think we're just kind of have a little bit of a hangout section or hangout session, as it were, and talk about the year, talk about how maybe it affected us personally a little bit, talk about our experience, talk about Veterans for Peace and what it accomplished this year, and do a little bit of a review. And that's basically it. Just kind of hang out and chat a little bit. So, fellas, comrades, let's do a little check-in. How are you doing today?
I thank everybody. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good and doing well. I I thank everybody who's tuned in today. I know we're almost at the end of this year, and I know there's a lot has happened this year, and a lot is happening, and we're all over the place mentally. I speak for myself. Mentally, I'm all over the place right now. Emotionally stable, spiritually stable, mentally just lots of stuff going on. Um, so I'm really happy to be here in this space, and I thank you for tuning in and sharing this space with us. It means a lot, and yeah, that's how I feel.
Word, word. And Garett, how are you today?
I'm good. Spending some time with my family over the holiday season was rejuvenating. Um, Trying not to pay too much attention to the news, but still being sucked in every once in a while. Um, trying to get my mindset on a new year. It's in a lot of ways nothing changes. In a lot of ways, it's an opportunity to kind of reassess things and to reprioritize stuff. So that's kind of what I'm going through mentally, I think, and reflecting on the year and years past, and trying to use those lessons to build on a future.
Okay, all right. So where should we start? I mean, maybe we should start talking about where we were as a country, and where we, in January of 2020. What was going on? I mean, we all kind of had like this. We knew Trump was president. We knew that there was this terrible decline in the empire, and that the police state was still raging out of control. But besides that, there was a sense of normalcy. I think in my own personal life, I'm a photographer and videographer. I do a lot of commercial work, so I was kind of building towards the spring, and preparing myself to be a professional at that time. And I was actually investing a lot of money in a photography studio. I took some risks personally at the beginning of this year, trying to build my business. And then I think COVID hit in March. I think is when it became real. I remember in February, I did this big event where I was taking photos of a beer festival, and there were thousands of people in this conference hall. And and there were starting to be some like rumors that COVID was actually real. And it was starting to sink in. I remember talking to a friend on the phone. He said, "Man, I cannot believe you are in a convention hall full of people right now." And he was like, "You have got to get out of there, because like this COVID thing is real and it's going to screw you up." And I remember looking around the room and thinking, uh, like, like Terminator 2, like the end of the world. Like all these people were just like happy and like getting drunk and being irresponsible and being like selfish and young and naive. And I was just thinking, oh man, it's all coming to an end. Like this is it. This is the last big public function I'm gonna be at for a long time. So that's me personally. That's where I was when COVID hit in March and everything got real.
At the beginning of this year, I was one of those I'm one of those conspiracy theorists, you know what I'm saying? I'll raise my glasses to that, who was looking at it already. Uh I was tracking it since it was in a bat. I saw a comedian say the other day, you know. Um it's In February, I think I was at a VFP gathering in Vegas, and we were
That's
conspiring.
right. We were all there, weren't we? That was
Yeah,
February.
you know,
Holy
and
shit. That seems like
and
a
and we
long
already
time.
knew about it. It was already here. We talked about it there, but none of us wore masks, and it wasn't a thing in our country yet, but it was already a thing in the world. And we kind of, I don't know if we thought we were above it or it wasn't gonna come. Um,
but none of us were prepared. I'll be honest, in hindsight, and yeah, I thought a lot was going to happen different in 2020, and it put us all on it caught us all off guard and shook up our world, and things quickly changed. I think by March, I was homeschooling, if not by April. Um, Things shut down kind of quick here in Mobile. Um, and the year has been just nonstop insanity. And also beauty. A lot of growth in many ways. Think about like Confederate statues getting toppled around the country, and now it becoming, I think, codified, normalized in Boston or something. Like cities figuring out a way to do it within like so-called legal ramifications, and quickly and efficiently, and the city paying for it. So that's a beautiful thing to see. I think to have all of this change, you have to have all of this positive change, you got to go through all of this struggle. And so that's why we're getting it like this. And this is probably just still the end of the first wave. We're talking about the second wave, man. Like, this might be a few years of our life.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I met the both of you in Spokane for the first time physically, for real, in the VFP convention, and then we rendezvoused again in Las Vegas at the end of January, early February. We celebrated Martin Luther King Day, Dr. King Day, on the streets in Vegas, and watched the parade go by. In a massive crowd of people, totally aware that the health crisis was spreading through Asia. And, I think there might have been, I'm not sure if there was a case in Seattle or in California by then, or in New York, but it was close around there that it happened. Yeah, and we were planning, conspiring, as you said, the Veterans Resist training to try to help develop a way to change the culture of Veterans for Peace, and build what came out of it, a membership caucus of people dedicated to doing that. And then we got sideswiped by the health crisis, and then a long overdue racial justice uprising. Yeah, it seems like all those plans had to get put on hold, and we were just reacting for the rest of the year to events. We did our first online convention for Veterans for Peace ever. Most attended convention, I believe, that we've had. Most attended business meeting that we had, annual business meeting. A lot of new things. We moved the office. The actual physical office in St. Louis was moved to a shared space, a smaller space, because we're all working from home because of COVID-19. So we're saving money there for the organization, and moving those resources towards actually trying to drive our mission home. And it was so crazy. I was less than only a few months in as the executive director of the organization, and dealing with these massive world-changing events, and helping to transform some of the culture and Veterans for Peace, try to make it more equitable. And it's been challenging, but it's been amazing to watch the organization kind of respond, and seeing young and old members working together to try to kind of build something new and more possibilities. It's been really cool to kind of see that happen, and it's still happening every day. So it's cool.
I gotta say, y'all, I gotta interrupt real quick, Mike. I gotta say, I'm happy that we came on here kind of last minute, and we had 20 plus people already check in to see for the show. So I want to give a really big shout out. I know I started off the show by saying thank you to everybody who tuned in, but it does mean a whole lot. As Garett just said, it's kind of just happened. We just we got swept along. I feel like we're part of the wave. And are we, at what point in the wave are we? So it feels good to be with this group right now at this time. I just want to reiterate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, this is kind of it's our own little safe space that we've created for ourselves and for our audience and for the anti-war community in general. So yeah, it feels good. We're very grateful for every person that watches and likes and shares. This has been a weird like experimental project that we started that actually rose out of the Las Vegas meeting. I think is kind of what started this whole stand down project. And we're just kind of we're anti-war activists. We're civilians. We care about this project, and so we've just kind of done it as a passion project. And it's grown over the past year, and somehow we've managed to continue to put on a show every Wednesday. If one of us drops out, somebody else steps in. We've kept it alive for most of the year, and so that's great. Yeah, it's been good. So, man, I mean, I was just thinking about COVID and like the beginning of the year, and our experience as veterans, witnessing the government, how it operates, how the government really operates, how the military really operates, how big American institutions handle things, handle crises. Um, I have to say, like, of course, I was shocked and like traumatized and taken aback by the scale of COVID. But at the same time, when I slow down and think about it, like, I'm not really surprised by it. I'm not surprised by the terrible mishandling that the government has, purposefully done. It's absolutely a symptom of a fundamentally broken system. I think as far as COVID goes, what the American government has chosen to do is that in America, in our hyper capitalist system, what happens is you have a huge section of the population who's purposefully left out of the economy. Like we have people, once technology takes over, more can be done more easily. You have people that you just don't have jobs for within this, and they're purposefully left out, and they become a surplus population. And so I think what the government's done is it's used COVID as a weapon against this surplus population, whether it's the elderly, whether it's the disabled, whether it's the chronically unemployed or the chronically undereducated. The government would rather annihilate a huge section of the American government than bring them in and provide jobs or healthcare or education or school. I mean, that's my perspective, and I think it relates perfectly with my experience as a veteran, where it's just this big dumb system where really nobody knows really what the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and and so it's all connected, and that's my perspective as a veteran on COVID and the government's handling of the crisis. It's man-made. It's a man-made crisis. It's done purposefully, and so we have to rise up against it and speak out against that. Fight for what's right.
Whether I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you felt like you were
Yeah.
trailing off. Whether the crisis is man-made or natural and man propagated, it's like it's so mishandled. The mishandling is and that doesn't even matter, right? Whether it's intentional or accidental, because the system isn't prepared or engaged enough to save the people, to protect the people. That, like, when you really get down to it, the system's created for something else, right? The system isn't created to protect the people and to protect the very things that help it make money in any way. Like, it leaves a large part of the population out, this subclass, this subgroup, as like an insurance policy to the lowest paid workers, that there's always somebody who can replace you. I think 2 million doses of the vaccine. We won't call it the so-called, but 2 million doses of the vaccine have been given to Americans, whereas 20 million were proposed or hoped for by this time, which is 10%. That's probably a overestimate, and then it's a miserable amount of the population anyway. And with it taking, it's just, there's so many things wrong with like the idea that the vaccine is going to save people, and that people are holding on to this hope to get back to norm and a normalcy. And like you said earlier, at the beginning of the year, things felt normal. Man, yeah, we're in such a bad place because this vaccine is just the tip of the iceberg of what's possible. The same thing could be Ebola, the same quickly spreading, highly contagious uh, virus that, or you know what I'm saying, that gets around the planet, could be something much more deadly. And people have talked about it. I know people who are watching us right now know who Chris Hedges is, and like Chris Hedges talks about like the failing of societies and how it starts in the city centers. And our cities, come on, man, it's sad right now what's happened this year, and the lack of will for people to be paid who don't have housing security or job security, the lack of will for Congress and Senate to pay them is, I think the president is in a place right now, the dude who's in office is in a place right now where he's hoping for a civil war. He's not planning for one. He's not well organized enough. There's no people talking. He's just hoping for chaos. He's just every day prays and tries to create and foment chaos. That's where we are. And that dude has 70 million people supporting him. We're in a sad state. We're in a sad state, but people are talking about it. Look at us for the whole year. And so many people are. So it's crazy, right? It's a crazy place to be. It's a crazy place to be right now.
Well, I feel like if you wanted to create something that could kill Americans, it's something like COVID-19, right? We've got this culture that is built on exceptionalism, that absolutely refuses to be inconvenienced whatsoever, even if it will save our grandmothers. We will not be inconvenienced. We will not wear a mask. We will not wash our hands. We will not avoid our local bar. We will not avoid spring breaks. We just refuse to be inconvenienced whatsoever, even if it'll save our lives. Don't tread on me, right? And then our health is directly connected to our unemployment. We have no paid leave systems where folks have to go to work sick because they depend on that wage to be able to pay for rent and pay for a mortgage and keep their health insurance. So people are going to work sick and spreading it around. And the trajectory of a capitalist system with the likelihood that more viruses like this and worse viruses are going to come out, right? Because we're overpopulated, we're exploring and invading territories to produce and expand and exploit resources, and transportation technology is such at a height where people are mobile and moving around internationally at such a high rate that the viruses are going to just spread, and we're going to encounter new viruses. And eventually we're going to hit one that, it's going to very, very uniquely target America because of our faults in our cultural systems. And it's going to get taken advantage of. And, we're already, if you look at the worst days in history, the 10 worst days in American history, just based on American casualties and death in one single day, most of the top 10 days are days in December of 2020, right? If you think about how we were reacting to the virus when it first started earlier in 2020, and how people sheltered in, were afraid to go outside, afraid to talk to strangers, in and out of stores if they had to go in at all. Shit was like locked down. There were hardly any deaths back then compared to now, the daily death toll in America. And we've become so desensitized to the virus and so beaten down by the lockdown statuses that we act now more casual than we did at the beginning of the virus when it wasn't as widespread and deadly. So we're in a sad state, I think, because of our culture and because of our economic systems.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I tend to always kind of like backtrack. I always tend to think of things in terms of history and and political theory. And I think, what the core problem, the core contradictions of the United States and US capitalism is like the mass majority of people think it's okay to live in a class system. As if it's okay that there's about maybe 1,000 people in the world that can have an unlimited amount of funds to do, where money isn't even an object to them, and the rest of essentially maybe there's about 15 million people that are millionaires, and then the rest of the world are essentially on their own. They have to struggle for education, for food, for healthcare. That's an acceptable state of affairs. That's how most Americans view the world, and that you start from there, and then you have this long history of the United States and the annihilation of indigenous people, 300 years of slavery. After the Civil War, the KKK became the de facto police state of the South. Those things were normalized, and so people just, we live in a very narrow paradigm of how we view the world. And that's why it's just so fundamentally broken. We live in this world where capitalism breaks down every 5 years. There's this major recession, and that's not a bug in the system. That's a feature. What that does is it allows capitalists to, in capitalism, you have competition. You have winners and losers. And so what you do when the system breaks down every 5 years is you create more losers, and the capitalist system is able to exploit that and consolidate wealth into a fewer and fewer amount of people, and that cycle repeats itself over and over and again until you have a whole world full of losers, people that have just lost. And it's so terribly ironic because all the modes of production that we have, our factory systems, our healthcare systems, these are all these things are produced by society from the masses. The masses are the things that actually produce all wealth, and the profits that are produced by these people, well, they become stolen wages. They become profit for capitalists. Profit and stolen wages are the exact same thing, and we just live in this world where it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the only thing we can do, I think, is organize an international proletariat revolution, like my brother Fred Hampton said. So that's where I'm at.
Amen. And I say, and we say, like, people don't think it's okay. I challenge you, brother. People don't think it's okay that we live in a class system. I think people don't think about a class system. People don't think about their lives and themselves as if there's a class structure. They think about things like opportunity. They're taught about opportunity. They're taught about hard work and perseverance will pay off, and singular, individualism. The idea, you break apart from the family. There comes a certain age, no matter what, when you're expected to go out on your own and make it for yourself. And then you're given all these examples. Youth is so celebrated, right? Youth in our culture and celebrity is celebrated to a point where if you don't make it by a certain age, then, you're not suitable for whatever. Depending on the industry, there's certain industries where you have to have made it by a certain age. And who came up with these numbers? So we're all fed this from a young age. We're blue for boys and pink for girls, and look at that car, it's a sign of wealth, and the house, and with the new job comes this. And so it's like people don't think about themselves as lower class or middle class. Even they think of themselves as poor or rich or haven't yet.
Temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
Yeah.
Right? We're all going to get rich.
Yeah. And living lifestyles that are expensive in more ways than just monetarily. We're in an age, we're also coming to an end of it, the age of illusion, right? The age where you fake it till you make it. We're coming into the age of awakening, into the age of truth and realization, where things are getting called out, or called in. People, I'm not going to make light of the name of the phenomenon of Karen and Ken, and how people, I know how people feel triggered by it. And think of the irony of that, that a person who's willing to stop you stop a person of color on a street or in a public space and question their right to be there is triggered by a name. But that's a place that we are right now in our world, where people are calling things out on large scales. Whole industries are being called to account. It's a perfect time to call to account the military industrial complex. It's a perfect time to have young people aware that the reason their college tuition goes up so much that they can't afford year after year is because Raytheon and Mitsubishi are making deals that the American public can't afford, to say it for just to simplify the whole thing. Like, young people get it. People get it. And so we just gotta get the language. We got to get this message to them in a way that they can get. I don't think people want to hear. I don't know. Maybe people do want to hear about the proletariat, but people want to hear it from somebody like a Fred Hampton. You know what I'm saying? People want to hear it from somebody who's got this charisma, because we, as social beings, we gravitate towards it, towards character. It's ironic that Trump is a president when we gravitate towards character. It's like that's why the whole world is upside down right now, I think.
Well, what role do veterans have in this struggle? How are we going to get some victories here on behalf of the working class? What do you think, Garett?
Well, it's it's an interesting, like, I don't know, paradox, conundrum. Like, we're anti-imperialist veterans. We're radical revolutionary veterans, right? We speak peace, which is just, it's a shame that that's the radical view, right? We're in such a militarized war culture that the people who want peace are like the fringe element. That's so ridiculous, right? The people who would want war and violence should be like this fringe psychotic element that we have to deal with as a society. But here we are, we're the fringe. That's just insane to me. But we reject everything about, like, our military service, the shame that it brought us, the betrayal that it was, that was put upon us. We reject all of that. We reject the hierarchy. We reject the authoritarianism, the oppression of it. But here we are using that as an organization. We're using the credibility and the experience of that in a way to reach people, to reach people's minds. And just walking around as a veteran for peace is like a revolutionary thing, because it just draws the question in most people's minds: why would a veteran be for peace, right? And I think that's incredible. I think that's just an amazing thing in and of itself. Just that folks have to see us and have to ask that question. We're like a walking culture jam, just out there, because we challenge the nationalism, the neo-nationalism that's spread and used to drive our culture more into a militarist war culture, right? And it's cool because I think that I said this before, kind of around the Armistice Day, is that we're used once, we're sent to war to use for corporate means, for the military industrial complex, for political gain, for whatever individualism there is out there. We're used for those purposes. Then we come home, and on Veterans Day, and sometimes on Memorial Day, if you're unlucky enough to be dead through the experience, you're used again. You're betrayed once more, and you're martyred. You're martyred, and you're memorialized, and they use you for the glory of war, for the parades and for the monuments. So more kids line up at the recruiter office. So more people feel good about themselves to be an American and to identify as an American. And it's all part of this bullshit myth that is out there. And as Veterans for Peace, we can directly challenge that because we've been through the experience, and because they're using us and using that credibility that we have and honoring us as veterans, we can use that space to talk about that and challenge everything that they're talking about. So I think that we have a key role, because not only does the nationalism promote war, but the neo-nationalism promotes racism and patriarchy and white supremacy, and we can challenge all of that too, because this culture that we have, the reason why you see a blue line flag next to an American flag, next to a Confederate flag, is because they think, you know, they actually identify that all these things have something in common. You know, this "Don't Tread on Me" flag, all this crap, they draw connections to through this line and narrative of neo-nationalism. And I think it's the intersectional issue that plagues our country so heavily, and excuses atrocities not only across the seas in Iraq and Yemen and all these other places, but it excuses atrocities that are happening on our own streets in our own neighborhoods. And we can talk to that as American veterans.
I like the example of the "Don't Tread on Me." It's such an absurd thing. You know, when I was in Afghanistan, I wore the "Don't Tread on Me" flag on my shoulder, and I thought it was really a really cool thing. I thought that like yeah, man, American independence and American exceptionalism, like we're the coolest. But then you look at the history and you realize that what that's about, it was about the first imperialist intervention overseas in North Africa, when the United States sent the USS Constitution, which was, you know, a wooden warship, one of the original like frigate warships. They sent that overseas to North Africa to fight the Barbary pirates. But what the real situation there was that the European powers were suppressing North Africa. They were massacring black people all across North Africa and exploiting their resources, typical imperialist behavior. And when the people on the North African coast fought back, they were considered pirates. And so we sent the USS Constitution over there, which failed miserably. It immediately washed up on a coral reef and was taken by the pirates and used. I hate to even call them pirates, because I don't know if that's really what they were or not. They were basically, you know, resistance fighters. They were indigenous people resisting European and American imperialism. But yeah, that failed. And then the North Africans took it and used it as a fortification and held it for a long time. And then it wasn't until much later that was resolved. But yeah, it's just a big failure, just a big dumb. It's just so dumb. There's no cool history to it or anything. You know, it's just like, I don't know. That's just one example.
It's like the last 40 years are a big dumb failure. The last 40 years are like just lost time in American history, like in the history books, because like neoliberalism and all this stuff that's happening now is like in this vacuum of the past 40 years, like the nation responding to austerity in the most draconian ways, you know, and like the people that did it, the cities that did it and that led the way are now some of the most so-called liberal cities. Like New York is the leader of this, but the people who are doing it now, who are acting it out and living it, don't even realize like intelligently what they're a part of, you know, and what they've been a part of. Like the Senate and Congress is like a lot of old guard, like you know what I'm saying, folks who are born and raised in segregation days and like still trying to live that out. And now you have this blue wave and people pushing back in, you know, because they've grown up seeing what's happened in their cities with the austerity measures, and they know it doesn't work. And you know, at the same time, you have like Bernie Sanders is the people's choice. He's popular. And the Democratic Party is like influenced by big money and old politics. And so they gather behind Biden and Harris, and that's going to be the same thing as Trump and Obama, just under a different, under a different name than Trump. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing as Obama. It's politics as usual, just with a nice smile. You know what I'm saying? When the black professor is accosted on his own doorstep, it's a beer and a conversation rather than justice, and so it's the same thing now. Like, this show started in response to the uprising for Black lives, and it's still happening today. Like, everywhere there are still Black and brown people being accosted by the cops and just average citizens, and the question of the validity of Black lives people still say, but and then they're going to come with, what about like these other groups. And so the conversation is ripe right now, and I think we have to push really ingeniously, ingenuously, what I'm saying, incessantly, like push nonstop, in all forms and all types of media, to get across this message that now we need to change. People need to wake up. Conversation is necessary. Intersectionality, like Garett said, is like it's the thing. It's like, it's got to be cool. We got to make peace cool. It's got to be fucking cool. Nothing is cooler.
Well, yeah, it's going to continue, and I think there'll be more protests this spring and this summer, with Congress, obviously, and the politicians unable to actually provide any kind of relief during this global pandemic in which thousands of people are dying from disease, and cops are still murdering people every single day. And the rent moratorium is running out, and the economy is crashing. And so, just because Joe Biden is president, doesn't mean anything is going to fundamentally change. In fact, he told us that nothing was going to fundamentally change when he was recorded in like a board meeting or some kind of meeting with his constituents. He told them that nothing was going to fundamentally change. So we need to prepare for that. And as veterans who have combat experience, who have military experience, military discipline, and we've gained a lot of traction, I think, over this last year in how to organize effectively, what kind of propaganda we should be putting out, how we should be relating to people. So we definitely need to focus in on that and prepare. When the protests start up again in the spring, we need to make sure that people aren't getting hurt, that they're doing the correct things, pushing against the right powers, all that kind of stuff. I think about that a lot. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and I hope that Veterans for Peace can be a positive. I hope we can contribute to the cause and not get too bogged down in our own bureaucratic and our own bureaucratic problems or all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I'm a new board member. I'm a board member. I can attest to the ease with which our meetings have been going this past half a year that I've been on the board. The thoroughness, the follow through, the forward thinking and planning has been excellent, in large part, I'd say led by Garett, kind of spearheaded, and Adrian as well. Adrian and Garett have really created a streamlined way for us to kind of move through the meetings, which is really nice. And then without being too transparent, without being, giving too much away, we've come up with a really good workflow. And I guess I'll give a welcome to our newest board members. I guess I'm one of them. Natasha Erskine, Michael Dempsey, Kenneth Mayers. My mind is leaving me right now. Thank
Paul
you,
Cox,
Paul Cox
and
and Susan
Shaw.
Shaw. And the meetings have been wonderful, and the planning on how to actually roll out the things we talked about in Vegas and have been talking about this year, and all the things our organization has been going through and growing through feel really good. So that feels good. I was nervous about joining a board. I didn't want to be a part of a board. I'm a very private person, and I feel like we're on the fringe. I feel like I'm further on the fringe. So it's felt good to be included and invited in, and then have my thoughts and feelings valued. And I've seen it play out. So that's a wonderful thing, and I want to recognize that. And I'm really excited about where Veterans for Peace is going. I know that we've grown a lot, or we've grown somewhat significantly this year compared to previous years, and things look good. Our planning is good, our organization is good, our structure is good. We've gone through some growing pains, and we're working together with them. So it's a really good place to be. As a veteran, as a person who struggles on the daily with keeping it together and moving through in a world that is not designed for us to move through. I recognize that. So that's cool. I think Garett has some numbers. I don't know if Garett has specifics or if you want to share anything. I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to. But it'd be interesting to.
Yeah, I could look at. Yeah, I mean, we're moving in the right direction. I feel that there's a lot of progress in a lot of different ways, like you were mentioning. We still just have so much work to do. And I think I think even in this hectic year, we've got almost 500 new members this year, despite all the craziness. Nearly half of them are new post 9/11 members. We have 595 independent members. Those are members that don't belong to a chapter that we can help organize. The membership committee has been restructured, and we're working with folks to try to figure out how to build more sustaining, stronger chapters, and also how to keep our independent members who don't belong to a chapter engaged and valued, because that's a lot of power, organizing grassroots power that we can tap into. A lot of potential leaders out there that can be involved. We've got 4 new working groups. I think that's very exciting. The Truth in Recruiting working group it's kind of been there. We've always done truth in recruiting, but we're trying to organize, I think, in new ways, especially looking into the digital space with online gaming and streaming. A lot of places where recruiters are moving to now that COVID-19 has restricted them from schools and from the shopping malls. They're finding ways to reach kids online in gaming space. So we're trying to use that ourselves to try to reach out and educate the youth, and reach out to more veterans and streamers and influencers to try to get involved to shut down the online space from military recruiters. The China Working Group is formed, dealing very explicitly with U.S. relationships and foreign policy and China, looking at nuclear war and the potential of resource transportation within the sea lanes there. And that's a growing, powerful working group. The Be the Change book club, where we've got a lot of members starting to educate themselves and look at their personal transformation. And that's a really cool project. And the Crisis Working Group is ongoing, trying to bring the voice of the impacts the military has on the climate destruction, and making sure that other climate action organizations are knowledgeable about those military impacts. you know, a lot of the major legislation that it's being passed and policies that are being passed excludes the military from those. So one of the most damaging institutions in the world is being excused from a lot of the carbon laws and other pollution laws that are out there. So there's tons of stuff going on. You know, another cool thing I wanted to bring up is the board just created 2 new committees. One of them is the Strategic Planning Committee, which I think is long overdue to have a standing committee to talk about the strategic planning of the organization. You know, I don't think that we have a very strong definition of what our theory of change is as an organization. And, you know, I think having a group that's really looking at that is going to be very helpful for the organization. And the Transformative Justice Committee is a really good thing to have now. You know, in a lot of ways, our organization mimics the, you know, white supremacy roots that we have as a nation. And, you know, our criminal justice system, I was going to bring this up earlier too. You know, our president is basically lining up the most capital punishment executions in history of any other president at the end of his term here. And, you know, our organization, you know, we have basically, you know, a punitive justice system, even as in our bylaws as a Veterans for Peace organization. And some of that needs to change, just like our society needs to change. We need a restorative and a transformative justice system in our society. And that's why capital punishment is still, you know, a fundamental thing of our systems, is that we don't have those restorative or transformative models of justice. We have a punitive justice model because that makes money. A prison industrial complex exists because we have a punitive justice system. And, you know, the police brutality often comes from that as well, because, you know, if you're not involved in restorative justice or transformative justice, if you don't care about the restoration of an individual, but the goal isn't to prevent crime, but punish people for committing crime, or make an example of people so they stay in line and don't commit crime or don't break laws, so to speak. The goal is to punish them as hard as possible to make an example out of them, right? To just brutalize them, not just in the law enforcement, in the arrest part, but in the legal system, in the courts, and in the prison system. And if you could scare people so bad, it really doesn't even matter if that person's innocent or not. The goal is to make an example out of them. And we have a criminal justice system and a capital punishment system that does the exact same thing. It's to scare people. It's a form of terror on our own population to make people step in line. And it's, you know, we know that not all laws are lawful, right? Not all laws are moral, right? So the laws that are created that they want you to follow doesn't necessarily make a moral society. It just makes an obedient society. And that's what's the goal is. And you know, we mimic that even in our organization. We have kind of this punitive system in our bylaws that I'm hoping that a transformative justice committee in our organization could research and learn more about transformative justice and figure out how to apply that to our organization. So we're calling people in, we're changing the culture, and we're working with folks, especially people who've been victims of violations of our code of conduct and our shared values, that can draw them in and make them a part of not only changing what happened, but changing the organization itself during that healing process. And I think that's super important. And that's something that the organization is looking at.
Brilliant. I remember when we first discussed that in Las Vegas.
It's happening.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so what else does VFP have planned for the coming year?
That was a whole
That
lot.
was a whole lot. That was a whole lot. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, VFP, I mean, I don't know any organization that I've participated with PSL, DSA, the United Panther Movement, Veterans for Peace, About Face. I mean, every single organization I've ever messed with has had these same problems of like the same tradition of white supremacy and like backwards punitive justice problem. So I don't think it's unique to Veterans for Peace, and I think it's fantastic that we're recognizing it and trying to resolve these issues and move forward. So that's good. That's what we have to do, you know, step by step, power to the people. So
Yeah, it seems like we it seemed to me, I feel like it seems like we are right there on the, you know, on the pulse. We even ahead of it a little bit, if I might dare say. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be presumptuous, you know, but it feels really good to be in the space that we are, that we're poised. I feel like our organization is small enough. Um, it's way too small still. So it's small enough to grow a lot without falling in on itself. Um, especially with the place our country is in, you know, with the number of veterans that are in this country right now, out out in the streets organizing, we could easily grow 30-fold in the course of like 5 years. Um, you know, and in that growth, so much massive change could happen. We could be like really I always feel like this organization, like Garrett said earlier, is really perfectly positioned to create conversation. You know, Veterans for Peace, that helmet, the dove inside of a helmet, it's a conversation starter. It really is. Um, and if we can constantly create enough content to have people a place to point people for any conversation, that's when it just, you know, it catches fire and becomes the national conversation. Uh,
yeah.
that would be a vision of mine, would be to have Veterans for Peace as like the leading peace organization in the country. You know, a name that every household knows, because then that's something that the you know the irony won't be lost on people. These are people who they think served. They think of it as served their country, serve, you know what I'm saying, serve the ideals, and now stand for what the mainstream claims to be a fringe group of the country. But we know from polls that overwhelmingly the country supports the same values that Veterans for Peace supports. We are like, our organization is not at all fringe or radical or leftist, or, you know, whatever people want to call it. It's progressive. It like, yeah, we have old bylaws, and we might have a bunch of people who might be who appear and who are stuck in old ways, but a lot of those very same people are always in conversations about how to change our country for the better, how to move out of how to, you know, move out of nuclear armament as a way forward, how to, you know, how to shut down bases, how to question the powers that be. So maybe a video game, you know, maybe it's a video game, or like you know,
There's so much work to be done.
dance challenges. We need TikTok dance challenges.
Anything we can do to reach the people and to reach veterans that are traumatized. Yeah, and just to revisit what Garrett was talked about, because that really was a very serious subject. I don't mean to trivialize it, and it's very nuanced. And I just want to say, like, yeah, we don't want to take for granted the people who were traumatized by their military experience, and then they go and they find solace, you know, in an organization like Veterans for Peace, and they get traumatized the second time. Like that kind of stuff just ruins. It can really hurt people really seriously. So, I mean, from what I've seen in Veterans for Peace, I think that there has been a reformation, and they are trying to seriously deal with it and make serious, reforms to that process. So,
But here we are, three guys on the. Here we are, three guys.
Here
on
we
the
are.
panel.
Yeah,
Natasha,
the contradictions
we love you,
just
Natasha.
rain
I know
down.
Natasha's relaxing from a couch.
Yeah.
She might not even be watching right now. But she has that right and that power. You know, I talked to her we were on a call with her right before the show, and she was like, I'm gonna relax and watch it from Facebook today. And I'm like, please, you know what I'm saying? Please, Queen, more power. Like, it's I think she's been the glue in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Natasha's been the backbone for sure. Shout out, Natasha. Thank you.
And Colleen too. Like
Colleen, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out, Colleen.
Yeah, man. This is
Yeah, Amanda brings up that there's two white dudes here
Hi, hey.
I am reading the comments. Y'all are posting some really awesome
thank you
stuff.
for engaging.
A lot of good events out there. Yeah, we've got a. Do we have an open mic night coming up?
We got an open. So
Friday,
here's the thing: we got an open mic night coming up on Friday. I promised to promote it heavily. I've only put out 2 public posts, I think, so I haven't been promoting it. My life has been up in the air. My landlords want to sell their house. We're renting the house that we live in, and they want to sell it. We're under a lease until July, but it's uncomfortable once you know that the people who you signed a contract with no longer want to, they want to sell it. It's like, is that even legal? Why did you call me and tell me that? Why didn't I don't know how this is working. So, but we've been looking at houses ever since Christmas. We didn't want to buy a house, and but we also don't want to move every year if somebody wants to move us out of a house. And so we're at an interesting place. Nothing.
I think you're
about.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying I have nothing to complain about. I'm fortunate and blessed, and I realize that to even be in a position to talk about the trouble of buying a house when I know so many people are not even able to stay in a home that they're renting, and the more rent moratoriums are about to come up, as you said earlier, Mike. So where we are right now, where I am emotionally is good. As I said earlier, emotionally and spiritually I'm good, but mentally all over the place. We have an open mic coming up on Friday night. Me and my brother Papa Biz from Kansas City are ready to do it. We've had a chat on the platform that we're going to use, and we just need artists. I could do some reaching out to some friends of mine. We were thinking of holding space at least for 30 minutes to an hour on Friday, and informing people that we will have this space moving forward, because I think it's important to have a space. It's just a space for artists to come and gather, and it's free, so you don't have to pay anything to get on to the open mic. It's just you just have to have some lyrics and some words and some music that is going to uplift the people. So you might have a hit song, and that's beautiful. But if your hit song is misogynistic or militaristic or materialistic, we probably don't want to promote it, right? So if your whole song is about how much you love your car and your car just makes you feel great, that's great, but that's not the song you should submit for this show. You should submit some music about how you can make the world a better place, how peace and love will create a planet of trust and compassion, and how those things will engender society to flourish. Socialist ideas. Just think about if you have some socialist music or something that people call fringe or too weird and quirky, that's probably the right song to submit. We have a submission page on the website, on Veteran Cookies website. I can put that into the chat. And what I'm saying, 7 to 10 minutes to perform your music, and it'll be live, aired on Facebook and YouTube, and streamed around the world. We have 3,000 members, and our Facebook videos get seen a lot, so you'll get seen a lot as an artist, and our YouTube channel is growing. So share the love, share the community, and that's the kind of open mic we want to have. It's going to be dope. If you've seen our shows in the past, then it's gonna be dope. That's all I can say. Yeah.
And it'll grow. That's the crazy thing. It's gonna, no matter how great it's gonna be to start off with, it's gonna continue to get better. So that's gonna be great to see. What else? Yeah, the MLK event. We've got a Dr. King event that's brewing. Hopefully, we're looking at the 22nd, which is also the day that the treaty to ban nuclear weapons goes into effect. So two big things happening around then. We're trying to build a Winter Soldier 2021. So we're gonna try to have 3 panels. One that gives honor to the original Winter Soldier hearings during the Vietnam War, and one based around the 2008 Winter Soldier hearings that IVAW, Iraq Veterans Against the War, did, and one that's going to be a very special one that is relevant to the stand down, because it's going to highlight military members who've quit, resisted, or have turned against their roles in the military, and law enforcement agents who have become abolitionists, resisted their police work, challenged their agencies and their departments because of corruption within their areas. So there'll be possibly immigration agents, Homeland Security, border people, National Guard folks that were called up and stood down, folks like that is going to be on an entire panel talking about that. So hopefully we can organize that. And, it's interesting. I think that we need to build more space, a pathway for law enforcement, ex-law enforcement, to become radicalized and work against what they were doing with previously. I think there's a lot of revolutionary and radical organizations that wouldn't welcome an ex-cop into their organizing space, and I understand why. But we're an organization that was used as the violent instruments of state power overseas and internationally. We have our own demons and skeletons in our closets that we're trying to overcome. And through activism, we're healing ourselves and trying to heal the world. And I think if there's any organization that can umbrella a group of ex-law enforcement working for positive change in this world, it's an organization like Veterans for Peace. So hopefully we can provide more space for that to happen somehow in 2021. Yeah, there's a lot kind of brewing around that we can work on. I'm hoping that we could build stronger campaigns, driven campaigns that are building power, rather than just being a year of being reactionary again and trying to play whack-a-mole with every issue that's out there and trying to show up for everything, but having our own campaigns that are driven by our mission in Veterans for Peace, and realizes and acknowledges and works with the intersectional movements that are out there.
I got nothing to say. That was beautiful. Yeah, ditto.
That's a lot. So Winter Soldier, actually, I kind of have a question, for the benefit of the audience. So the Winter Soldier 2008, could you elaborate a little bit more on what that was and the context?
Well, the original Winter Soldier, is probably the most famous one. Is kind of I think it provided two things. It was a kind of a testimonial for the atrocities that individual service members committed in Vietnam. And obviously it brought up issues about racism in the military, misogyny, and other issues that kind of plague the culture, the military culture and war culture that we have. They were powerful testimonies, and followed up by the Dewey Canyon event where, service members discarded their medals and rejected their rewards. And then in 2008, Iraq Veterans Against the War, inspired by that original Winter Soldier, held another multi-day long event in Maryland that highlighted their own experiences and atrocities on various panels. We included panels with folks from the Afghan and Iraqi, voices to talk about, their own the impacts of war upon them and their families and the diaspora of those cultures here in America. And it was called Winter Soldier because because the Thomas Paine quote after the Revolutionary War that they weren't sunshine patriots, that they were, even when in the worst weather, they still showed up for a fight, and that we were doing that kind of in a version of speaking truth to power, not in the patriotic sense of America, but and what was needed to be done, because it's always difficult, I think, to to speak openly, for one, to challenge the institutions and the communities and their peers, but also it's difficult personally, because I think the second powerful thing that the Winter Soldier hearings is a confessional, right? It's confessing about your own part in these atrocities and perpetrating violence, being part of the war machine, even if you were in combat arms, but being in a position where you were supporting the operations of the U.S. military in any sort of aspect. And I think that's super powerful as well. So the confessional piece, I think, is a big part of it when it comes to personal healing of those veterans who testified.
I say more power. I say more power, and I really like what you said earlier about the brainstorming about creating a space for ex-cops and for police who want to be a part of progressive, positive change in our country and our world. Because I definitely get that question, when I'm in a space of young people of color, forming or planning any march or anything, any action, is the validity of my voice as a veteran, because I made that choice. But then once they get to know me and they, that's how people are, then it's seen, it's respected. So yeah, I think this is the perfect organization for a space like that, where police officers, former police officers, and current ones can work to be part of the transformative justice committee, and help change things. The work is not just talking, and the work is not just theory. It's got to be done. Veterans for Peace is one of the few organizations with all these chapters and all these interests that can do it. People just go out. I mean, we have a good problem now where some of our members just go out and do stuff anyway on their own, you know what I'm saying, and take part in things and end up trying to put themselves in lead roles. That's like, so we have, go back, you know what I'm saying? Don't stand back and stand by. You know what I'm saying? Pull back, be ready to pull back and bring other people forward. You know what I'm saying? Let's be proud to be men, and let's not call ourselves boys and act like children. You know what I'm saying? Let's be proud to do the work necessary to be men, proud, strong men and women, and engage our youth in ways that make us see beyond the demagoguery of identifying with you know what I'm saying, with boyhood as though it's the most proud thing in the world, and random acts of violence. Let's do random acts of kindness and flip the verbiage on its head. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I love y'all, man. I love y'all.
Word. Yeah, I mean, I know that I've tried to enter organizing spaces before, and I've been asked, how long have you been a cop, man? And like, man, nothing hurts my feelings. Nothing hurts my feelings quite like that question, but I know it's the correct question.
Also, as a veteran, you come off like that, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Because you carry yourself with this kind of
I know I dress like a cop too.
Intensity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you yeah.
Yeah, I know it's the right question. Like if somebody as a veteran or an ex-cop comes and tries to get in an organizing space, like you have to prove yourself. You have to really put in the work and prove yourself through theory and action. So, but yeah, so Veterans for Peace is like a good foot in the door for people to start to begin that conversion, to distance themselves from the bloody business of empire and start organizing on behalf of the people. So I appreciate it in that way. I think it's useful in that way. Is there anything else that VFP is planning to do in the next year?
Well, it's it's interesting. I mean, I've already had, Military Families Speak Out helped organize a meeting they invited us to with the Biden transition team. So that's an interesting conversation to be had. I think more will come out about that in the near future. But we're trying to obviously work on two fronts. We're trying to have the meeting, and have a conversation, a relationship with the administration, while still not compromising our positions as a grassroots watchdog activist organization. The potential to escalate accountability on the administration, hold them accountable to what they've said. I think some folks said in the chat earlier today, is really critical. Obviously, Biden chose Lloyd Austin as Secretary of Defense. It's very likely that that's a confirmed position, and that's highly unfortunate. Somebody who's so well connected with the military industrial complex, and still so fresh out of military leadership, being put in that position is kind of the wrong direction that we want to see, I think, as a anti-war veterans organization. So we're going to continue to try to work on both fronts, to be out in the street, screaming and yelling, and to be in the White House meeting somewhere to continue to talk to them to do the right thing. Obviously, John Kerry is the climate czar, but for the first time, somebody who's directed in the White House to deal with climate change is in the National Security Council. Somebody who has roots with VVAW, and came from anti-military veteran activism to obviously has not done a lot from the movement in his positions of power in the many years recently, but it's still a potential to try to reach out to them and to get an ear, I think, in this administration. I think there's a potential that we could at least make the attempt, even if it might be a wasted effort in the long run. So we're going to continue to try to do that. I would like to see a growing campaign around Armistice Day. We talk about Reclaim Armistice Day, and usually we don't really start talking about it until around November every year. I want to talk about it now. I think just like a lot of municipalities are changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, I think we can change more and more municipal laws to call Veterans Day Armistice Day once again. And I think that'll be a massive blow to the war culture. Just talking about a day of peace and a day of armistice, instead of the way that it's kind of used in these patriotic, military recruitment pamphlets, basically. So I would like to see that start that, and I want to create a page on VFP that just has a growing list of cities and towns that have changed, that we've got succeeded, and hopefully by November 11th, 2021, we have a good list of cities and towns. There's tons of stuff. Like I said, the climate action group is doing a lot of things. They've got a cool brochure out, but we want to do more around that and build better connections with some of the youth-led climate activist groups out there that are doing some really cool stuff. I think SOVA's still in a battle. There's an interesting Secretary of Veterans Affairs that we have to challenge. It's not even a military veteran in that position that I think there's a lot to do with. It's depending on how well Amanda does out there in Georgia organizing veterans. We might the Democrats might not have the Senate which means a lot of things will only get passed by the administration through executive order. And I think one of those things that can get passed is working on the deported veteran issue. I think we have an opportunity to bring our deported veterans home through executive order, and to stop the deportation of not only veterans, but change immigration laws for everybody, because we shouldn't be an exceptional position just because we're military veterans. That should extend to all humanity. So I don't know about y'all, but I didn't consider myself serving just military veterans and myself. Even though I was lied to and betrayed ultimately in my mission in the military, the oath to serve anybody is an amazing thing. If you make that oath to your family, your friends, your local community, your neighborhood, anybody in the world, regardless of their nationality, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I want to continue to help serve humanity in that way. So I think we need to change all these laws, not just for veterans, but for everybody. That was a long rant, I think.
No, that was good. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. There's so many different things to cover, I guess it probably, we've been on for an hour and 17 minutes now. And I think we've covered all the essential items. I know I saw an email recently from VFP that, of course, asking for money, which is fair, I guess. So I know that's out there. If people want to contribute, we can always use a little cash. We can always use new members. So if you have it, please reach out. In the email, it covers a couple of things that Veterans for Peace accomplished this year. So we advocated to call down on the National Guard, call the National Guard to stand down in the height of the protests. Chapters all over the country contributed to the Black Lives Matter protests. Let's see, what else did we do? We led a Save Our VA campaign. So that's an important thing. That the VA thing kind of drives me nuts, because you see a lot of veterans in the VFW or the American Legion actually calling for the privatization of the VA, which is just absolutely mind-boggling stupid. I can't believe that any veteran would ever want that. And I know Veterans for Peace and About Face are both interested in preserving veterans affairs. So that's good. So we had our online convention, and then we also did the election defenders at during the election. So hundreds of people went out and were trained to handle any violence or anything like that. What was the shakeout from that, Garrett? How did that election defenders thing go?
I wanna say I'm not gonna answer that question, but I just want to jump in real quick, Mike, and say that what I want to see in 2021 is more collaboration with outside organizations, and more of our weekly show, and less war. That's
Hell yeah.
Those are my closing words for the day, and that's where I'm at. And yeah, I'm here with y'all.
Yeah, Amanda was surprised about who's doing the Save Our VA campaign, but yeah, that's Veterans for Peace. It's a national project of Veterans for Peace, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, like you said, Mike. These traditional VSO type organizations, veterans organizations, won't touch it. It's a revolutionary concept to have a medical system that's a socialized medical system. And if the nation sees the VA as a successful socialized medical system, it ruins their opportunity to make sure that all our medical systems in America are privatized. So they don't want to see the VA as a successful thing. It's constantly underfunded, so it breaks and it doesn't work properly. So more people complain about it. So veterans complain about it. So it only justifies people who want to get rid of it as a reason to destroy it. So we're one of the few organizations that will step up and try to save the VA and try to stop it from becoming privatized, and to make sure that there's equitable health care for all veterans, including women veterans, LGBTQ veterans, veterans of color, who do not receive equal medical care in the VA system right now. So it's a huge challenge.
Yeah, I think the other thing a lot of people don't know is that the VA is kind of the backup system for national health care. If there's a major national catastrophe, like we've had with COVID or any other thing, that the VA is there to support humanity on this continent. So it's important to preserve. What were you going to say, Garrett?
Yeah, I forgot.
Word.
There's one of your last points you asked me about the election.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There was hundreds of veterans out there doing the election defenders. I think our count was 579 veterans participated in election defenders. A lot of them were Veterans for Peace members, but there were a lot of other, Veterans for the People, About Face members, and a lot of veterans that don't, identify with any organization were participating in election defenders. So out of many thousands of people, we had almost 600 veterans participate. And, there's still stuff going on today, obviously, with, work that's going on in Georgia right now. And then, across the country, there's folks showing up whenever there's a, stop the vote kind of activity. There's joy to the polls and other actions that are going on by election defenders. So stuff's still going, and we'll see, how it develops in the future. I think that, as a 501c3, we can't really participate in electoral politics. We can't pick a candidate or favor any sort of candidates, but we can advocate for true democracy. And, I think that we don't have a very, we don't have a perfect democratic system in America with electoral college and some other faulty systems, but we should strive to make it better every single day. And I think, real democracy is something that we should strive for as a nation, and election defenders, we could advocate for that.
Yeah, certainly. And certainly try to just preserve life at the polls, because we know that, white terror is running rampant these days. We just had the bombing in Nashville, and we've had all kinds of shooter. So it's good that, if women and children go out to vote, that there should be a people's resistance to any kind of horrible thing that may happen. Absolutely. So, yeah, man. I mean, so we just kind of did this impromptu. I think we all came on at last minute, and we managed to keep talking for an hour and 23 minutes. So that's pretty good. That's an accomplishment.
That could also be a flaw of ours, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you don't have to out us, Mike. You could have wrapped it up cool, and you know what I'm saying? Just been like, we had a great conversation today. You can't edit it. It's live, man. I love
complete
you.
Complete victory. We did it.
No, really, like, this has been a great conversation. We touched on a lot of topics. We touched on everything that happened in 2020, and literally everything. If it happened in your home, we talked about it today, and that's true. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much, Mike and Garrett, for being here. Garrett, thank you for really kind of carrying the conversation, and for being here today to represent VFP. I know it's a lot. It's a lot of time. You've clearly put your heart into this. It's not just words. So that's lovely to see. And thank you for that. And Mike, thank you for being here. I love your analysis and your nature.
Thank you.
Yeah. I look forward to next week and the weeks coming. Planning out a calendar is a great way to move forward, and leaving some wiggle room to react, but not being reactionary. So I'm looking forward to it. More collaborations with outside organizations. Yeah.
Well, here's to a full year of Stand Down Live 2021.
All right.
Yes, definitely.
One more year.
All right, friends. Love you all.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.